So, episode 3 of Doddsy Meets. I'm joined by who some people describe as the worst journalist on planet Earth. I think otherwise. I'm joined by Calum Woodger. How are we?
I'm not bad, mate. That's it means a lot to me that you think I'm not. So that's all that really matters to me. But all in good banter on that. You can take it. You know, it's I have to say it's an extensive survey from the boy that said that, isn't it? Worst journalist on planet Earth. I don't know how many journalists are out there, but certainly a few million people, isn't there, at least? So fair play to him for gathering the data and ranking me on top. That's how I'm seeing it. No bottom, I'm top.
Yeah,
top of the pile.
He must have read a lot of your stories to have come up with that conclusion, surely.
I don't know. A couple probably would have done it for him, to be honest. So, but that's what it's all about, isn't it? You know as well as I do. When you get into this game, you know you're going to come in for a wee bit of stick. So take it in good heart and take it in the chin, have a wee bit of banter with it and get banter back. And if they can take it, then fine. And if they can't, then well, they're just hypocrites, aren't they? To quote Neil Lennon. So
hypocrites. Holidays.
I'm not doing the air quotes anymore.
Sad.
I've retired them after that shambles from Mr. Lennon. So, aye.
But there's not really much else we can say about that, is there?
No, there isn't.
But yeah, episode 3. May I add before we go any further? Episode 3 of the show, and we've already got
straight into the beers.
Straight into it.
Right, cheers, mate. That social distancing and stuff. Yeah. Happy days. Happy birthday as well to you today. Brilliant.
Thank you, mate. Yeah, just for Andy's going to be listening or watching when this goes out, which will probably be 3 weeks from now. Now is 22nd of January. But yeah, right into it. Then, obviously, you grew up in Paisley and are unfortunately a St Mirren fan.
I am, yep. It's pretty much lifelong, I suppose. I think I went to my first game when I was 4, 5, maybe something like that, at the old Love Street. So that would have been about 1998, 1999, with my dad. My dad's actually English. And also, like, I've got like all the sins in the world, really. A St Mirren fan from Paisley. My dad's English. So it was a tough life for me growing up. But I mean, he obviously didn't have a team up here, and then moved up, married my mum who's from Glasgow, and all her family are kind of Rangers fans and that, and he went along to one of the games with my uncle in the late 80s sort of thing, before I was born, and I think they were playing Hearts or something, and he just didn't like the atmosphere at all, for obvious reasons. Some of particularly back then, it was a bit more rife with the sectarian language and stuff, so it was just totally alien to him. A guy from a place called Woking, just outside London. They've got a good pizza express, I'm told. Prince Andrew recommends. Woking, good place. But yeah, so I think my dad was just like, we'll take him to the local team. They ended up settling in Paisley. So local team was St Mirren, and been a St Mirren fan ever since now for what? I think about it now, nearly 25 years. So, I've actually been a decent time to be a St Mirren fan. We've done okay. We've gone up a couple of times and won the League Cup.
You must have went down.
So it's the highs and lows, and I'm sure you can sympathise supporting Pollock Juniors, even though they're probably one of the premier junior teams, aren't they? Let's be honest, the Lock. But
well, I said that I did a bit for just a view from the terrace, and I did. There was Chris Marshall, who was doing the questions for them, was saying, "So when did you become a Pollock fan?" As I'd say, about circa 2010 when I went to my first game. 2010 to now has been possibly one of the worst periods of being a Pollock fan ever, because we got relegated, and then it's been coming back up. So we got promoted first time asking, but since then it's just been a bit of a bumpy road type thing. So I mean, yes, I can sympathise most definitely. Pollock and West Ham as well. So I've definitely not had the most luck apart from 2015-16 really.
Yeah. But aye, good teams in black and white, mate. So for all I'm living and working up here, and for the last nearly 4 years, try and get to as many St Mirren games as I can, whether that's working or as a fan. So aye, it's a labour of love, as they say.
Labour of Love Street.
Aye, well, I wish it was still. That'd be great. I love the
I
old
mean,
ground.
one of the lucky ones who can probably still say that they've been.
Yeah, a lot of, obviously the older guys will all remember it, but you've got a whole generation coming through now who younger guys like yourself who maybe didn't start going to the football till about 2009, 2010, and we left Love Street in 2009. So I don't think I was able to kind of. I wasn't quite. I'm still not quite an adult, but I was. I think I was 16 when we left Love Street, so I didn't have the full kind of ritual of being able to go and have pints with my mates and that too much. Walking down to the ground, but it was still a fantastic day, and I think for away fans as well, it was always one that they enjoyed because it's quite old fashioned and ramshackle. There's not really many grounds left like that in Scotland, particularly in the top flight. Maybe Fir Park or something's kind of a bit kind of all the stands are all higgledy-piggledy and are different. Capello, obviously, I do, as much as we do have an intense rivalry with the Ton, your big team, Doddsy.
Not at all.
But I do like going to Capello. Capello's a great stadium because it does remind me of Love Street in some ways.
Haven't they got a section of Love Street still sitting there?
Supposedly, I think it's the away end. What's the away end called at Capello?
The wee Dublin end. The wee Dublin end, and then part of the cowshed as well.
Yeah, I think they were going to take the old family stand at the east stand at Love Street, which sat behind the kind of, it's like the home goal or whatever, but and build it on top of what they've got at Capello, but they've never done it. And they took the toilets as well, I'm sure, but they've never done anything with that, and the floodlights, and there was all sorts of rumours banding about that Morton had taken like half our stadium and they're going to pop it a wee bit further down the Clyde, but I don't know if it's actually happened or not, but yeah, you do miss the old place, but it's been a good move for the club in general, getting a new stadium, I think, so worth it.
And have supporters taken to that well, of just like in your social group of St Mirren fans?
It takes a wee while. When we move in, 2009, 10, something like that. So it's over 10 years now we've been there, but it's starting to feel more like home. I think the club has done well to put a wee few finishing touches on the place. Like they've got the names of all the 2013 League Cup winners up the stairs, and they've done up the dugout area and the tunnel and stuff. But the big change for me is the kind of fans group. I think they go by North Bank 2018 or something like that. It's just a group of, like, call them ultras if you want, but it's just a second section really of like young lads from school age to sort of my age, who go and support the team week in, week out, home and away, and they bring a really good atmosphere, and it has improved markedly. It's like the North Bank was at Love Street now. They've got that wee section towards the end of the West Stand. The kind of the final two blocks, W6 and 7, I think, is usually kind of full with those boys jumping about with the flags and singing songs and pyros and all that. So it does feel more like home, and you've still got the odd nutter shouting and swearing at refs. So aye, not now, unfortunately, but aye, in normal times it would be feeling more like home. So yeah, it's a decent wee stadium for a modern stadium, I'd say.
Yeah, no, from my visit in, when was it, November? That was, it felt like Belgrade with all the fireworks going off outside, but I certainly enjoyed it. It was a good game, even though it was on the telly and lost. But
nothing new there, mate. So
no. Not the last couple of weeks. Not the last couple of weeks. Been decent. No. I say that, and by the time this comes out, they could have probably lost 3 in the bounce, knowing the way that they go. But no, it's a decent, instead of it's good being away from the old firm, isn't it? Growing up supporting the team, I feel as if it makes you appreciate football more, doesn't it?
Yeah, you'll know that as well as I do, but Paisley's always had that sort of because it's right on the border of Glasgow, and Ibrox is, you go down Paisley Road West and Ibrox is like 10 minutes in the car, so it's got that sort of siege mentality of Paisley's and it isn't part of Glasgow, obviously, but it's a lot of people kind of group it in. It's part of Glasgow, but it's got its own identity with St Mirren, particularly. It's now that the thread mills are sort of closed down and all these old institutions in Paisley, St Mirren's been the last thing standing, and I think a lot of people in Paisley who maybe aren't even the biggest football supporters. If someone get to like a cup semi or a final or something, they'll turn out in their numbers. They're sort of fair weather fans and that, but there's a real pride in the team, in the town, being so close to Glasgow. But yeah, growing up, there's a good core of us. There's about 4 or 5 of us who are St Mirren fans, but the vast majority of my friends are Rangers fans, and there's some Celtic fans in there as well. So, but yeah, it does give you a different perspective, and it helps me in my job as well, coming through here and two teams that are so far away from the old firm in terms of their rivalry, in Dundee and United, and the way the fans view football is totally different from the way old firm fans view their team. It's sort of it is people's lives, but it's not so much. They can sort of take the defeats on the chin and just move on and then enjoy the social side of football as much as the winning and losing. It isn't the be all and end all for people, I don't think.
Yeah, I mean, and the social side of football is something that we're all missing just now, hugely, isn't it? I mean, we're incredibly lucky to be in stadiums, but I think that's a big part of what we like when we're going and covering a game on a Friday or Saturday. I think that's one of the things we're missing hugely, isn't it?
Yeah, to throw some Neil Lennon back in there, privileged. We are genuinely privileged.
Even more so now with the fact that the lower leagues are stopped as well, so even less people are getting in to cover it.
Yeah, so it's massive. It's not the same. I still miss the football as much as I'm getting to go. I'm going to 2 games next week, which is most people haven't been in 2 games for nearly a year. So it is a massive privilege, but you don't get the same opportunity to go. If I wasn't working one weekend, as rare as it is, I'd get to go home and go to St Mirren with my dad and my mates and have a pint, and you'd be able to stand up and shout at the ref without, or celebrate a goal without the press box all turning around and staring at you. So I can't really do that right now. If something goes against Dundee or United or one of the other teams that I'm covering, I can't stand up and start giving Willie Collum or whoever it is pellets and abuse and whatever. So so yeah, aye, we miss it, and I do feel for the fans, and it seems a long way off. It's not going to happen this season, let's be honest. Maybe next season we'll see at some point some fans coming back. Fingers crossed.
Hopefully, yeah. I think it's kind of relayed onto the pitch as well with the way games have been played this season. Obviously, you'll have gaffers saying, we played at a good tempo, but let's be realistic. It's not really been the same rip-roaring football that we're used to, is it?
Aye, no, you're right. I think it's not Scottish football, but I think I saw, was it Carlo Ancelotti on the telly the other night, saying that Everton were really struggling to play well at home because they've not got the home fans there, but they actually feel the benefit of going away to other grounds, and because there's no fans there on their backs. So fans can be a great leveler at times if a big team, say like Rangers are going to I don't know, Easter Road or something that's tight in on the pitch and they're on top of them, it can maybe help Hibs get a result. But we don't have that this season. And yeah, I think certain teams would probably say they've struggled, but when we look at the leagues, all 4 leagues, I don't think we're thinking there's any massive surprises as to where teams are. Livingston are probably the biggest surprise package, but even then, that they did well last season as well, and they've kicked on this year and done the same. But we all want fans back. It's not the same watching football in empty stadiums. It's still bizarre. You get more used to it. I remember the first time I saw it, I think when the English Premier League came back sort of late spring last year, and to finish off the previous season, and I watched a game, I don't know if it was Man City against somebody, Arsenal maybe, at the Etihad, and I'm sure David Luiz had an absolute howler that day, but it just wasn't the same because you didn't have the reaction to him having a terrible game, or City running away with it and scoring loads of goals, and it still feels the same way. It was really bizarre back then, but now, almost a year on, you're more used to it, but it still doesn't feel normal, and it'll never feel normal. Fans make football, and it means a lot to people. It really means. I did a story recently for our papers, and some of the stories people come out about, how much the football means to them. It's not just about games, win, lose or draw. It's about family and friends and the social side of it and memories and people who aren't there anymore, who would usually go to the football way, people who've passed on. They go there to remember them, and for a lot of people, and I'm in this category as well. It's a connection to where you're from. Living in Dundee now, one of my few connections left with Paisley is the football. It's something that's a big part of my identity, and it's a big part of a lot of people's identities. And I don't think that can be underestimated, and its importance to people. Their mental health in this time as well, and it's a blessing we've still got it, and they can watch games on the telly and on club streams and whatever else, but you can't substitute that feeling of walking up to the ground at 2:30 on a Saturday and taking your seat and watching your team get beat. So it's that's my experience anyway. So
I know the pain. I know the pain. But obviously, from going to St Mirren, you've obviously touched on it. Now working up in Dundee with DC Thompson. What made you want to be a sports journalist?
Obviously, always loved football, particularly. Lots of different sports as well. I played a bit of golf when I was younger.
You don't come off as a golf type, mate. I know you do yoga and quinoa and stuff like that, but you don't.
They're sitting there, mate. Golf clubs right there. They're covered up because I've not been able to use them for months. But wee bit of golf. Yoga's a new one, isn't it? That's quite good. Away out doing a bit of the running as well, and I had played a bit of basketball at school and things like that. So I was always been a wee bit sporty, and my family being quite sporty. My granddad was an athlete. On my dad's side, so it was all kind of English athletics and stuff. My great uncle was a footballer. He played. I don't think he ever properly made it, but he played youth forms and reserve football for a few teams in and around London, Fulham, Charlton, Leyton Orient, a few teams like that, I'm sure. And my dad did high jump and swimming and hurdles and things like that. So we kind of always been a sporty family in a way. And I don't know. No one ever really made it in that way. So I think my parents are always keen to make sure, enjoy football and sport and playing it and whatever, but make sure you get your education as well. And I think the two just came hand in hand, where I enjoyed writing and I enjoyed football. So I think that was always a kind of dream from a young age, was to put the two together and become a journalist and football writer, or whatever you want to call it. I just always surrounded by my granddad. Again, my English granddad. He's not with us anymore, but he was always reading his papers and stuff. So I think that just rubbed off on me, and I got kind of reading match reports and watching the football on the telly and knowing all the scores and results and stats and all that. So I just kind of, a lot of people probably have a similar story, don't they? You just get obsessed. It's easy to get obsessed with something like that, especially when you come from a place like Paisley or like Kirkintilloch, where there isn't a lot to do, is there? Let's be honest, really. So, football and going to the football, playing with your mates and all that, and having a decent amount of intelligence about me to be able to write in a reasonable manner, led me down that path. Did okay at school, went to uni, left uni, went back to uni, did a master's in multimedia journalism.
That will not be happening at this end.
It was, do you know what? I liked my first time at uni. I went straight from school. So I think I was 18 when I went, and I went to GCU in Glasgow, and it was good. I did media and communication, and it was quite broad because I didn't know if I wanted to go into broadcast or written or whatever. And as you can tell by my vocal delivery and my face, written was always going to be the path for me. So went down that path a wee bit with some freelance work and some work experience, and then I left uni, graduated 2015. I had a year out with just working odd jobs, and went back to uni to do that course, postgrad sort of. I'm not giving up on this, one last stab at it, and it all just sort of fell into place. I think initially I applied for a news reporter's job up in Dundee at the Evening Telegraph, and didn't get it. Basically, I must have been relatively high in their thoughts. I didn't get it. Someone else got it. And then a couple of months down the line, I got a phone call from the Evening Telegraph sport editor at the time, Graham Finnan, and he basically just asked me to come.
Maybe I'd Hero.
Yeah, the bear actually. So he is, and he phoned me, quite informal, old school. So, hi, Joe, I come up and have a wee chat and about joining the sport team. And I was like, of course. I didn't have any other. I was still doing my masters at the time. I didn't have anything else on the table, and it was paid work. It was work in football and in sport, which is, as you know, hard to come by. Full time,
Permanent contract as well.
A reasonably big. Yeah, exactly. In a reasonably big city with two great football clubs. So, I didn't think twice. Came up, had a quick wee chat with Graham and the editor of the Evening Telegraph at the time, Stephen Bell, and they were happy for me to start, as soon as I could. And it was, moved up, got a crap wee cheap flat. This is a palace now in comparison. But yeah, and just took it from there. Just kind of start out at the bottom of the rung and filling in for Big George, who George Cran, filling in for Tom Duffy, who's retired now. And then sort of as time's marched on, people have retired and they've changed the structure a wee bit, and I've managed to sort of get myself a spot as a sort of full-time writer on the sport team for the, not just the Evening Telegraph, but we've merged the sports teams now, and I'm writing for the Courier and the Sunday Post as well. We're doing podcasts, so it's all worked out really. And I do owe my career so far in my life and a lot of my happiness to this city, to the two football clubs, and to the people at DC Thompson, particularly Graham, for giving me a chance. So it's been a fun journey so far. And at the moment it's sort of, you're stuck here. Who knows where I'll end up, one day. But I do love it here, and football clubs and the fans have been largely brilliant, even though I'm the worst journalist on planet Earth. But it's been a fun sort of 4 years. Come July, I think it will be. I've been here, so not got the accent yet, which is good. So try to get the accent a wee bit.
Oh, well, I edit that bit out so you don't get
what I mean.
I started already.
I know.
But obviously, COVID's kind of wrecked all newsrooms, hasn't it? Like, there isn't really an aspect of actually in a big, bustling news desk anymore, is there? It's all done from home.
Mm. No, this is my newsroom right now. I've got my beds there for my naps halfway through the day. Got my golf clubs to practice my swing when I'm bored. Got my light up Mad Dog bottle on my desk as well. So it's not exactly really like the usual newsroom environment, apart from the Mad Dog. That's still there. Me and George like to sneak out a couple of wee bottles every now and then. But no, it's totally different. It's totally different. It was a novelty at first. But now what are we? We're 10 months, maybe by the time this goes out, 11 months into lockdown. We've been working from home the entire time. DC Thompson's been, to be fair to them, absolutely brilliant, been great in terms of putting our safety first and sending us home. And we've got all the equipment we need. We can take home our work laptops. I'm using this microphone that we use for the podcast. And in terms of that, I couldn't have done it any better. I couldn't feel any more safe or secure or happy in my job. And in terms of the way the company is, and that, it's a precarious economic situation for a lot of people in the news industry and all industries across the country, but we seem to be coping with it reasonably well. So from that aspect as well, it's been good. But I think, the toughest aspect's the mental aspect. Stuck in a house, cabin fever, not feeling you can really do your job properly sometimes as well, because as much as it's all well and good, we can sit and have this chat like this, like I would have this chat with a player or a manager. It's not the same as going down to Tannadice or Dens or whatever it may be and having that one-to-one interaction. Obviously, we can't do that, and for safety reasons, we shouldn't do that, of course. But in your heart of hearts, that's what you want. You really want to go back and connect with people and see the old faces, and that's why games are so great, not just from we were talking about that earlier, weren't we, about the privilege we have, but the actual social side of catching up with the media team at the clubs, the players, the staff, everyone who you see at the games, match day announcers, whatever, everyone who you see. It's that side of it's been a lifesaver, because I don't think I could have sat up here, for the last on and off for the last 10 months myself. Say we had to watch the games on a stream and report it that way. God, he would have just jacked it in and worked at a shop or something. At least you get out and about that way. But but yeah, it's been okay. I think it's easy to start with the kind of the woe is me and all that, and make your problems out like they're massive. In the grand scheme of things, I've got it easy, got it good. So it's changed the newsroom environment though, of course, but collaboration still happens through platforms like this, like on a Zoom call or on Teams, and just old-fashioned phone calls, and some of the boys in the work live nearby, so it's meet up and have a walk about the park if you want to talk about something. Do you know what I mean? So there's that as well, which is quite good. So it's just adapting into it, and if you love what your job, which I do, I'm a lucky person in that, and I'm sure you're the same, Doddsy, and you do love your job as well. So it doesn't feel like it's not great, but it doesn't feel like hard work. Like my mum's a civil servant, and she sits at home, and the big part of her job that gets her through the day is going into the office and talking to folk.
The house to new people.
Yeah, because she likes her job in that, but she's not like a dream job in it. She doesn't love it, but so she's sitting at home hating it, But I can't complain, and maybe some point down the line they'll start staggering us back into the office, and we can get back to some kind of normality again. That's what everyone's looking for, isn't it?
Yeah, I suppose it kind of brings back the old school journalism in terms of just pick up the phone and phone somebody. Yep. Like that, it brings back that aspect. But I mean, I don't know, like in personal experience, like I find sometimes my role at the telly can be quite isolating, because it's just me who's covering Morton or something like that. Yeah. I don't know if that's like maybe I don't know if that's the same as you up in Dundee, but maybe that's now been quite intensified quite a bit, possibly, now that you're stuck in the same four walls all the time.
Yeah, no, I mean, obviously you're kind of like a one-man band, aren't you, for the Greenock Telegraph? But we've got a team of about 9 or 10 overall on sport across the kind of 2-3 papers. So it's not so bad. But yeah, like I generally tend to cover Dundee United, and it's just myself and another guy, Ian Roach, that tend to do that. So in terms of that, yeah, obviously you're stuck on your own, and there's still collaboration. But you'd be used to kind of turning around and asking someone a question behind you, or looking over the desk at someone, and if you need a bit of advice, because at the end of the day, I've only been doing this for 3-4 years, and I'm surrounded by guys who've been doing it for 10, 20, 30, some of them nearly 40 years. So, it's hard. You want to learn as much as you can all the time, and you sort of adapt and you learn in a different way. Excuse me, in lockdown, but picking up the phone and phoning folk, using your shorthand, if you've got it, having to get back to that, and recording, things like this on Zoom, and that. It's just different techniques of trying to do your job the right way, and as much as we all get into journalism for, because I enjoy football and enjoy sport, you get into it to do important work as well, and work that isn't just like about people scoring goals or whatever. It's about the implications of football and mental health and things like that, and football and sociological sort of the way football is viewed by people and how it impacts their lives, and the impact football and other sports can have in their community and charities and stuff like that. So you want to keep your standards up, so you're doing all those things justice, and you're accurate, and you're following all the codes and the guidelines and that. So you're sort of having to regulate yourself and keep yourself disciplined as much as you can, which is difficult, but like everyone else, sometimes it's difficult.
Happy to still be working and have a bit of routine.
Happy to be working in that, but yes, difficult to find a routine sometimes, like everyone's feeling. But it's a new way of life, but quite like it's a personal thing. I quite like the flexibility and being able to be creative and do my own thing, be my own boss, whatever you want to call it, and in a way, not completely, but in a way. So, aye, it's the way of life right now.
Been the
But
experience. It's been the experience, I think, is the way we describe
aye,
it, isn't it?
absolutely, mate, and it'll stand us all in good stead, probably. So,
Yeah, and I mean, I've seen, I've obviously comments towards yourself,
aye,
worst journalist on planet Earth, and I've seen maybe some sections of either Dundee or Dundee United supporters saying ban DC Thompson for what either Dens or Tannadice.
yeah.
I mean, there's in media as a whole, I think people can maybe say that there's maybe like a lack of trust in the media in the UK. Personally, me, I blame the man who's just left the White House. But do you think that's the case, that there is a growing distrust between media and the public?
I think it's always been there in a way. In the press, we've not done ourselves a lot of favours down the years with things like Hillsborough and whatever else, phone hacking, these kind of things that have launched massive investigations and reform in the media section industry. So there's that, of course, and some papers have reputations, but a lot of other papers have good reputations, like local papers, like the ones we work for, are crucial to our communities. Yeah, we both work for a telly, don't we? So, but yeah, they're crucial to their communities. But yeah, you mentioned Mr. Trump, but for me, he's sort of what he's done is he's
magnified fake news.
Yeah, he's utilised social media for his own gain, which is horrific and wrong, but also you have to say clever because it's a pattern that's been developing for a number of years. I think that there's not enough fact checking on social media in these companies, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, etc. They have a responsibility to adhere to some kind of regulation and follow some kind of code, and they started to do that a wee bit when they're putting the wee info sign and saying that the information is discredited and the source isn't reliable and whatever. But there needs to be more of that because so many people across the world now. I don't know what the percentage of the world population are that are on social media, but let's just say for argument's sake, 1 billion people. Like if 1 billion people are reading, things that aren't true and believing it, then it's going to change change discourse and the ideology of people and the way they think, and that's when you see more extreme opinions and people believe in conspiracy theories like COVID isn't real and this climate change isn't real and it's it's all a hoax by China. That's nonsense. It's insulting and it's embarrassing, and I laugh because if you don't laugh you cry, sort of thing. And people do need to go back to trying to see past the sort of tribalism of and they sort of have to see past that and see past hating certain news outlets and trying to find news outlets that they trust. I'm not saying you have to trust all news outlets, but if you if you trust the BBC, go get your news there. If you trust your local paper like the Greenwich Telegraph or the Evening Telegraph or the Courier, go and get your news there. If you trust the Guardian, go there. If you trust the Mail, go there. It's better. Anything is better usually than going on social media to get your news, unless it's obviously a trusted journalist or whatever. But there maybe needs to be a bit more of a wider education maybe in schools about the pitfalls of online media and social media. I'm a bit too old for maybe, when I was in school, it was all really new at the time. I think Twitter and Facebook had just kind of launched as I was in the kind of upper high school kind of ages. So we never really got taught anything about it, but I don't know if it's something to do with kids now, but I think there maybe needs to be more regulation on social media would help, and education on the way the media actually works. Because until you actually get involved in it, you've got no idea how it works. I mean,
there's NUJ regulations, there's IPSO, there's Ofcom, there's all sorts, isn't there?
And I don't think I really, even now, I don't really fully understand how it works because you're still gaining experience. I know enough to get by and stay inside the regulations and whatever else and legitimate, but you're learning about how it all works, and once you get that wee bit of insight, you can see through some misinformation, and you can see what's separate the good from the bad and the credible from the the sensationalist or whatever. So I think just a wee bit more, like anything in society, education is key for anyone.
Mm-hmm. If I'm ever talking to my mum or whatever, she's like, "Oh, what did you do at work today?" Blah blah blah. and I'll always turn around and I'll go, you know what? After everything, like I've covered a fair few stories this year, and I still don't feel as if I've had a day of what I envisaged of being a journalist to be like. I don't. Do you feel the same as that, or like, do you feel as if you've had some experiences of like high bustling and something's always happening and you're in the know and blah blah blah?
Yeah, it's been a year like no other, hasn't it? And I know what you mean. Like when you're in the newsroom, you can sort of you get that atmosphere around you of people on phones or typing away or just having a chat. You know, maybe someone shouting at someone down the phone or whatever. You know, people coming and going. You definitely don't have that. Of course you don't. But I think it's been hard not to feel like a journalist this year because of all the storylines have just been remarkable. And if we're going to stick to football, then yeah, you know, between COVID coming along, the league being cancelled, the voting scandal, reconstruction, football starting again, COVID cases, you know, even the on-pitch stuff with some of this surprising storylines, and yeah, it's been amazing, and I feel personally, as a young journalist, you know, with like 27 and about 4 years into the job, like I say, it's I've learned a lot in the last year, probably as much as I had in the previous 3 years. So from that respect, then yeah, it's been eye-opening. It's probably the word, and scary as well. I think, if I'm being honest, especially, you know, just from a personal point of view, going to the football and thinking I'm surrounded by a fair few folk here, you know. From that side of it, with terms of maybe contracting coronavirus, which touch wood, you know, hasn't happened to me or anyone near us yet. I touch wood. And also just from this year, our line of work as well is, are we going to be in jobs? You know, is football going to survive? Like teams like Morton, Dundee United, you know, they're no Rangers, Celtic, Hearts, Hibs, Aberdeen, and they've not got big bank accounts to fall back on, or big fan bases to help bail them out, and you know, there's that as well. But you know, like amazingly so far, we've managed to sort of carry on with football, and all of our clubs are still here. Some are struggling more than others, but yeah,
we always find a way to hunt through.
That's the thing. It's Scotland's national sport. It's the only sport in Scotland. It's the only sport anyone really, truly, on a mass level cares about. You know, people like their boxing and their rugby and golf and whatever else, but everyone, to some degree or another,
always comes back to football.
Likes football or has a team, or when you know, things like it very rarely happens, but like when Scotland qualified for the Euros, I mean, do you know what I mean? That's another incredible storyline. Like when that happened, like it's unifying, isn't it? 5 million people can get behind the one cause, and we've seen that in Scottish society with like independence and Brexit and politics and whatever else, you know. To keep your tomato sauce in the cupboard of the fridge, you know, we can never unify. No one can bloody unify anything, but football, if Scotland do well, by and large, can unify everyone. So, it's massively important.
But no, I mean, as you said, it does unify people, doesn't it? Like, I mean, me and my grandpa, it's mostly it's part of the routine, innit? Like, I still phone him on a Friday night. I'm lucky enough to still phone him on a Friday night and say, oh yeah, he's asking me what game I'm going to on a Saturday. So I do get what you mean by the whole unifying situation.
Yeah, absolutely. It's probably one of the few times that you sort of, as you grow up anyway, and you move out and whatever else, and I get to spend time with my dad that way, going to the football in normal times we jump about and someone score a goal and we're hugging and cheering and singing together, and that's, you know, don't really get that father-son moment too often. And I'm sure there's a lot of people, and it not necessarily has to be father-son, you know, it can be your mates, it can be mother-daughter, it can be father-daughter, it can be mother-son, you know, any relationship that can bring you together, unify people, unify a whole country, as we've seen. So, no, you're right with you and your granddad, and you know, even now to be able to speak on the phone about it, I'm the same with my dad, you know, sit and talk about St Mirren, and then we'll talk about United and Dundee and what games I'm going to and big storylines and whatever. So, yeah, it's one of those ones you meet a random person at a party, invariably another guy, and what do you start talking about? You start talking about football, don't you? Team do you support?
Always what team do you support?
Do you watch the other game the other night? Or if you're from the west of Scotland like we are, what school do you go to? That's always a good starter. They try and figure out what team you support from that, and then you turn around and go, "I St Mirren or Pollock," and then they go, "All right," and then they just walk away. That's no football, mate.
What was it? I went on holiday to Amsterdam 2019. I asked the guy behind the bar if I could charge my phone. He was like, "Yeah, no problem." He seen my screensaver and it was Steph McCluskey after scoring a hat-trick for Pollock, and he goes like, "What fucking team is that, man?" I was like, "Don't even bother. Don't even bother."
Celtic under 19s, mate. Oh, Celtic, I know Celtic, aye. That's the thing. Where are you from? Glasgow. It's just easier than saying Kirkintilloch or Paisley, isn't it, when you're abroad? But yeah, aye, no, definitely.
But I was a big part of your job's covering United and the Dundee as well. Have you adopted teams maybe, or just is it still family working relationships?
I'd be totally lying if I said it was just a work thing, because I go to games sometimes and I find myself sitting cheering for them and willing them on. And St Mirren fans are going to hate me for this, but even sometimes against St Mirren, I can be sitting there and thinking, if it's a really important game for Dundee or United, maybe, it doesn't matter so much for St Mirren, I'm sitting there like,
come on, like you can do this.
Supporting them. And I think you build personal relationships with
certain players,
the players and the staff, and even that, just like the people that work at the club who are
lifelong fans. Yeah,
aye, dark blues or Arabs, and you get fans who follow you on social media and you start talking to them and you become sort of pally in a way with them, and it does begin to mean something to you. And I've lived here for long enough that if I do eventually leave here and go work elsewhere, back home or abroad or wherever, I will be checking out for Dundee and United results. That's my St Mirren pitch. I'm just hitting the deck there. So and there's that hitting the deck as well. I can assure everyone that I'm still a St Mirren fan, so this sits in front of me every day at work. So, but yeah, no, there is. I don't think. Obviously, it's our job to be reporting the game, but it's not.
It goes back to love of the game, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does go back to love the game, but we have a duty to our readership, who are all. If I'm away at a game, Ayr United against Dundee, they don't care about Ayr United. They don't. Like, I'm writing it from a Dundee point of view, or Inverness against sort of like Ross County against Dundee United. They don't care about Ross County. Like, they only care about Dundee United. So you can't help but have that feeling, and it's better to write about a win than a defeat. You know that. It's more fun. The players are more open. They're happier. The manager's more.
What's writing about a win?
It doesn't happen very often. I think we've actually we should probably set a chart and work for when both Dundee and United win on the same weekend, and maybe St Johnstone as well, because it very rarely happens. I think it's maybe happened 3 or 4 times in my whole time working for DC Thompson. But no, going back to your original question, like, yeah, you do have feelings for teams. You can't help it. It's the same way that you have feelings for West Ham, even though you're a million miles away. You develop a feeling for one reason or another. I don't know what the story is for you behind supporting West Ham, but for me, like, I could be 10 years down the line and someone could ask me, why do you care so much about what Dundee or Dundee United are doing? And you've got a story about it, don't you? So
yeah, that's the best way to put it, isn't it? I mean,
what about West Ham? How did that come about? I'm interviewing you now, so this is the problem when you get two journalists on a
so
call.
My dad, like yours, my dad's from. Well, my dad was Ealing, in East London, so out in the Wembley.
Never knew you were a fellow Cockney brother. That's brilliant.
Yeah, there's a lot of S, mate. There's a lot of S.
Aye, that's good, mate. Right.
So just to make things even worse, so my dad's a West Ham fan. My mum grew up a Birmingham fan. The relations between those two teams are ridiculously bad, or they were at one point, I'm pretty sure.
Mm-hmm.
And so just that whole thing just doesn't add up with people. But dad's a West Ham fan. He grew up obviously, he grew up in Ealing, but his childhood was spent going to see West Ham with his granddad and his dad, from what I remember. And he ended up getting in with a certain, I'll get demonetised if I include copyright infringed names. Ended up with a certain fan group and was heavily involved with them. So that's how, like, obviously West Ham was instilled in him,
Yeah.
and also, I mean, through labour, through gritting my teeth and point blank refusal at first. Didn't want to support the same team as my dad at the time, so I was just like, supporters ever win at the time. Then I kind of realised, I was like, nah, my dad's team kind of feels right to support my dad's team. And I think that kind of grew bigger when my dad died. So yeah, as a Labour, I love supporting West Ham, but I do kind of, like, as you said, it's the whole connection, it's the whole, like, feeling like close to my dad and stuff like that.
Absolutely, like that keeps you connected to your roots now that your dad's no longer here and stuff like that. So I 100% understand that.
Yeah, and I mean, it's like, obviously, as you said, your dad's an Arsenal fan, so yeah, I mean, you'll probably have an affiliation for the Gunners as well, but
sometimes, mate, sometimes
just with only
they're almost as brutal as West Ham. I mean, I was, when he had the Invincible season, what was that, 2003, 2004? So I'd have been about 10 or 11, and that's when you're pure mad into your football at that age, aren't you? So, you know, it was great being an Arsenal fan, Thierry Henry and Patrick Vieira and all that, but not so much now. But West Ham are doing okay at the moment. Your dad will be happy with that.
That's exactly the boys higher. So we need to trust them, just need to back them. I mean, as you said about working relationships, there is players that you want to do it, like players who maybe helped you out when you were younger, or whatever, just doing you a favour, like you do keep an eye out for, don't you? You just want them to do well. I'm sure you're in a similar situation to me. If I'm going to name drop, I'll do Dundee's number 2, the most handsome Turkish man in the world.
Aye, I know you're a big fan of Big Dennis, Dogan Mehmet, top man.
It's lovely, man.
A fellow Cockney as well, by the sounds
of it,
isn't he?
I thought West Ham youth team.
Aye, exactly. So, but yeah, there are certain players and managers, like I remember when Robbie Nielsen left last summer for Hearts. He was vilified by quite a big section of the Dundee United support, and can sort of understand that. Football's tribal, and United had just been promoted, and Hearts had been relegated, and
Robbie's went done them over.
Yeah, and United's head, he's maybe done them over, and he's got, you've left a massive club, and Dundee United are a massive club, for a team in the division below, but Hearts are a big club as well. They're Robbie's club, and Robbie was always fantastic with me as a young reporter. I think
pleasure to deal with, even from when I spoke to him.
He's a gent. He's an absolute gent. He's a nice guy, and a good manager as well to boot. But yeah, I think United had a bit, and it's mainly United I've covered down the years, but they had a bit of, it's not a merry-go-round as such, but they had a few managers coming and going between Ray McKinnon, Shabba, Laurie Ellis, and they'd all been good with me. But when Robbie came along and the team started clicking on the park, and he stuck around for 18 months, a couple of years, and you do grow a fondness in it. And as much as I want to see Dundee go up this season, if Hearts could go up and Dundee can manage to get up for the playoffs, I'd be happy for Robbie as well. So yeah, you do have people like that, and there's always people in the current dressing room. Like I had a big chat with Lawrence Shankland last week, and top man, big help for me to have that. He's probably the biggest star on our patch. He's definitely the biggest star on our patch. Maybe Charlie Adam as well, but so there's loads of guys. I could reel off a load of names who've been dead handy down the years, and it's not just the current crop. It's ex-pros as well, and there's been some United and Dundee had some cracking players down the years who are always good to call. And Hamish McAlpine's a complete gentleman. The big goalie, well, not the big goalie's not that big, but the goalie.
Goalies are generally lovely people. Have you ever realised that goalies are generally the best people in your contacts book?
I think so.
I massively think so.
Yeah, it's because they're not usually the big stars, and they're quite happy to be interviewed or something. Or
I'm not entirely sure, but I just think
you just love Big Dennis, don't you?
I mean, I do. There's no denying it. But the more people I seem to write about, the more people it seems to be goalies. Like even in the juniors, it was guys like John Connolly or Jordan Longmuir at Pollock did really good stuff for him for the Pollock programme. And then even at Morton, like Big Sam, who was the first person to come on the podcast, and then Roy Baines, Morton, absolute Morton legend. There's just people. I just feel as if maybe goalies feel a bit isolated on the park and are a bit of a pal to talk to. I don't know what it is. I just big fan of the UK Union anyway. Yeah, I think.
Aye. Just a bit mad as well, aren't they? Let's be honest. Good chat. Good chat from my goalie.
Very good chat from a goalie. Big long methodical talks usually.
Aye, and they put up with a lot of stick as well. Big Jack Hamill in the Dundee's always a good interview as well because he's been through the ringer.
Yeah.
He really has. And on the other side of the coin as well, you got Benji Siegrist at United, who's top class keeper, and a really good orator as well. He'll sit and talk away to you, with a sort of funny. He speaks immaculate English, given it's his like second or third language. I think he's native speaking German, but he speaks French, being Swiss. And but he grew up at the Aston Villa Academy, so he's probably got a bit of an accent actually quite similar to your mum's. A wee bit of a Brummie accent mixed in with the sort of German Swiss. It's the strangest accent ever, but he's a top man. But that's another great thing about our job is you meet people from different backgrounds.
There's some amazing stories.
Yeah, with amazing stories and totally different from you. We grew up in an environment where it's just a bunch of Scottish folk. Majority of us are like white and maybe the similar religions or whatever. But football allows you to meet people from all different backgrounds and opens your eyes and it's not just for us; it's for the players and the fans and everyone. It's a great leveler, I think. As a just it's a game, but it is more than that. It's a cliche, but it is, and that's one of the things I love about football. You don't get to meet guys like Benjamin Siegrist and I don't know, Jean-Do Fuchs, Cameroonian, former French under 21 internationalist. You're not going to meet him walking down Lockheed High Street looking for a news story for our papers. It's just not. So,
totally right.
It's amazing. It's a privilege. So.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, last thing I've got jotted down here is two words. They both begin with T. I don't know if you know what they are.
Begin with what T?
Oh,
Twa Teams, is it?
That's the one.
Is it?
Well done, first go. That's just for PSA. That was not edited to make it look as if first go.
I really should know that, shouldn't I? But aye. What about it?
Twa Teams is your baby, isn't it? Or am I wrong in saying that?
It probably is. It probably is. My baby. 2 years ago, I think we started it.
An award, am I right?
Award nominated. Aye, we never won that year. We got nominated for. It was obviously so good because I can't remember exactly what the prize was called. I think it was the Publisher Podcast Awards. And we were up against like the Guardian and the Athletic and things like that. So, we're just happy to be nominated. I think the Guardian ended up winning it for like the best sport category. But we've been doing it for a couple of years now. We just hit 100 episodes. So get quite a loyal listenership. Obviously, Twa Teams One Street's the name of the podcast. It's both the teams on the one street, Dundee and United, both on Tannadice / Sandeman Street, depending on how you want to look at it. Depending on whether your specs are tinted orange or dark blue, but and Twa being the sort of Dundonian word for two. So Twa Teams One Street is the name, and it's myself and George Cran, Graham Finnan, as we've spoken about in this podcast already. And it's good fun, mate, just having a chat into it really, and but it's also serious and speaking about football, and you approach a lot of subjects that are important, but most of the time it's just a good laugh, and particularly now in these times when you're not getting to sit and have chat in the office face to face, it's a good way to slag folk, because that's what I miss most about going into work, is I don't get to walk about the building half the day wasting my time slagging folk. So I get to slag Big Georgie over the Zoom, which is good every week. So man, it's brand new. started it a couple of years ago, and it's just taken off, and the whole company sort of
Well,
followed suit. I bought into it, and I think the football between us and the Courier, they've got their own one, the Talking Football one, and that's great as well. To be fair, because it's not we just cover United and Dundee, but obviously they cover St Johnstone, Dunfermline, all the Tayside teams, Fife teams, Reef Rovers, etc. So it's a fantastic podcast as well, and I think we sort of led the way, and the rest of the company's fallen in line, and DC Thompson's got quite a lot of podcasts now, and the guys behind the scene working on it, Sean Hamilton, who's the soon-to-be sport editor, that's an exclusive for you at DC Thompson, and Chris Finn as well, who's the head of podcast. He's brilliant as well. So, it's a good team, mate. It's good fun and something different from writing, getting to talk about football.
Bringing up that dreaded word again that made me start the podcast. It allows you to expand, doesn't it?
It does, and when you're a young journalist, I'm hitting my peak years. I've got like 2 good contracts left in me. If I was like playing Football Manager, I was like, how many contracts have I got left in me? I'm 28 this year, so I reckon I can get another couple of 2-year deals out of me, maybe a couple of 3-year deals if I keep myself fit. But hit my peak years, so it's good to have different things on your CV into it, and the fans enjoy it as well, man. You've got to give them value for money. They can go and buy their papers, or they can pay for the online subscription, and you're not just getting your news stories and that, you're getting like analysis, and you're getting podcasts and video and stuff. So there is a responsibility, and I do feel that responsibility in the job to do it justice and be as professional as I can, even if I do like to have a bit of a laugh. I love having a bit of a laugh, that on Twitter and on the podcast and all that. It's just great, mate. It's a privilege. It probably is my baby. Aye, it probably is my baby. So long may it continue, man. And we've had you on a few times. That always improves the chat when we've got the young Doddsy on, giving it big licks about the Morton.
Oh, mate. I shattered the first time I was on. That's the only way.
I wasn't going to say, mate, but
I did. I shat the bed.
You can redeem yourself. By the time this is out, you'll probably on our podcast.
By the time that this is out, I'll be on yours a week later, and I'll have headphones. Massive difference.
Probably not your wee AirPods,
these ones.
The millennial
these
that
ones.
you are. Aye, they ones. Get the you're fully kitted out now. I'll send one of these in the post to Kirky, so that'll be you fully sorted.
The podcast is allowed. You said the DC Thompson, I get a lot of them now, but it's allowed local journalism to get maybe a new much needed edge, hasn't it? That's maybe been able to catch up with the times.
Aye, I think people maybe thought it's kind of like a wee bit of a trend, like just a fad, not a trend, a fad kind of thing, like podcasting that maybe a couple of years ago. But you see a lot now, man. Like Open Goal is a prime example, obviously. Guys like they build their careers out it, haven't they? Really, like Simon Ferry and Slaney and all them, and the View from the Terrace, and Slaney's a god to me, man. But like the boys doing the View from the Terrace as well, and they're on the telly now and really successful, and it gives a different angle to football, because I think Scottish football media has probably been guilty of just focusing on the old firm for years. Even the BBC, who did focus on other teams at times, are guilty of that, on things like Sports Sound and whatever. But with a thing like A View from the Terrace, and you get something a wee bit different, and with things like what we do, like Twa Teams One Street, like it focuses on the Dundee teams, and there's Northern Goal, which is DC Thompson one as well, and they do like Aberdeen and Ross County and Inverness, etc. And I know there's a Morton podcast, isn't it? Does Ewan do that? Does Yubo do that?
Yubo did do that. Yeah, he's not dumb. Just one Cornetto. Yeah, I thought you were talking about Phone Talk there.
Aye.
But no, they've got the fans on. Yeah, it's just really good. Yubo's a panelist that I nearly got sacked from that for my expert analysis.
Yeah, but and there's loads of good ones out there. I'm trying to think of other ones. The St Mum one's good, actually. To be fair to the guys that do that, it's called Misery Hunters, which pretty much sums up what it's like following someone. If you're interested, it's a growing medium, and I think any news outlet that's trying to stay at the cutting edge and move with the times, it's quite a simple thing to put in place, and it can only benefit your sort of overall brand, I think. And and they're good fun as well. I can talk for Paisley for Scotland, for Dundee, for wherever you want, mate. I talk for Europe.
Yes, that was Doddsy Meets with the Evening Telegraph's finest reporter, contrary to reports, Calum Woodger. Thank you very much for coming on for the last
No danger, mate.
hour. It was supposed to be half an hour, but we managed to get an hour.
Told you, mate, I can chat forever, mate. I'm away to go and rile up some United and Dundee fans on Twitter. It's my favourite pastime. I've got nothing better to do. So, cheers, mate.
No, thank you for coming on, mate. I appreciate it. Top man.